class. Today what we're going to be talking about for our day 6 of our poetry unit is word choice. Now word choice is also referred to as diction, and what it is the idea that every word in a poem must count, because poets put together complicated and creative ideas into fewer words because it's the nature of a poem. Every word has to count. It has to be very important. So what we call word choice is really important that you notice, why does a poet use one word over another? And this is all going to come back to the idea of what we study with denotative or dictionary meanings of words versus connotative or contextual meanings of words. Like for instance, why do we have so many words that all mean cold? Except some of them mean bad cold, some of them mean good cold, some of them mean sick cold, some of them mean rude cold. It's all because of the connotative meaning. And so the word you choose is very specific to that meaning because of the way you use it in context. Well, that's also the same with poetry. What we talk about as word choice means when a poet goes through and writes, that poet's not going to just use random words just because. And he's not going to choose words just because they rhyme. He's going to choose words because they have a very specific meaning when used in the context of the poem. So what poets do is they make impact through their choice of words, their adjectives, their adverbs, their verbs specifically. So we're going to be reading a poem today called Those Winter Sundays. Go ahead and open up your poetry packet. Make sure you're turned to day 6 and follow along with this particular poem. This is a very complex poem, even though it's not very long. It brings up a lot of feelings throughout the way the speaker talks about his father and some memories from the past. And I'm going to walk you through a few lines and really thinking about why a poet chose those words and not other words that mean basically the same thing. So again, this poem is called Those Winter Sundays, and it's by Robert Hayden. Sundays too, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. Then, with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather, made banked fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold splintering, breaking. When the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress, fearing the chronic angers of that house, speaking indifferently to him who had driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well. What did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lonely offices? Now, this is a poem I really, really, really like. But let's go through and look at it stanza by stanza and talk about some of the lines and the words that the poet chose to use to really get his meaning across. Because really, if you step back and think about this poem, it's a reflection of a childhood memory, thinking about something that his father used to do for them that he took for granted as a kid, and now as an adult kind of understands how much of a sacrifice, of a gift that his father did for them to get the house warm before they woke up, because it was a laborious chore that they didn't think much about, but at the same time it was an offering of love that they didn't experience much from their father apparently. So if you look back in the first stanza on the second line, we get words like blue-black cold. Now why blue-black cold? Not freezing cold, not frigid cold. Instead of the blue-black. Think about the word blue-black. Can you picture something that is blue-black? So the first thing that pops into my head is a bruise. And that idea that the cold is so bone-chilling painful that it's like to touch you it feels like a bruise, which is different than just saying the freezing cold. And then in line 5, you'll know, well, if you notice, look at the whole stanza. Most of the first stanza is one sentence until line 5. When the sentence ends, we get a second sentence. It's very short. And that short sentence is put there very purposefully as a contrast to the long sentence that it follows. No one ever thanked him. And we definitely get that sense of, when we talked about memoirs, that idea of having kind of two different narrators, the narrator of the time and the narrator looking back afterwards. We kind of get the same sense with the speaker here in this particular poem, that you have the speaker reflecting on the event that happened then, but also it's obviously a more mature perspective looking back on it now. So that first sentence kind of gives us the re-experiencing of the event. That second sentence, which is the last line of the first stanza, no one ever thanked him, really drives it home that it was a ungratefulness that he seems to almost, it regrets it. But the fact that it's that short sentence in contrast with the longer first one is really powerful and impactful. If you look at the very next line, line 6, we get the cold splintering, breaking. So that it creates a sound effect to the cold. That almost makes you think of like icebergs when it breaks away from the ice continent, and you get that splintering sound. That is a very just powerfully cold image that you get, and that's a very specific word to use, splintering, as if something is so frozen that it would have to break to actually warm up. Line 10, which is the very beginning of the last stanza, speaking indifferently to him. Word indifferently, it means not caring, right? Whatever. Which we get again as something that the speaker at the time of the experience probably didn't think about much, but as an adult looking back, or even years past, that indifference, that lack of gratefulness is regretted now. That not respecting, not understanding the love, the sacrifice that was given to him, who had driven out the cold and polished his good shoes as well. Mundane little chores that you didn't think of much until you realized how much of a sacrifice they actually were. And then again, that line 13, which is the second to last line, we have the repetition. The repetition is always something that's going to be used for emphasis. What did I know? What did I know? That repeating up is this kind of, I had no idea what I was doing. I was too young to recognize what my father was doing for me. And it really drives it home, that regret that he feels, the remorse for not being appreciative at the time. So what you're going to be doing today, as you're reading through some poems, you're going to be thinking about word choice and why a poet will use specific words to create meaning. Why those words and why not different words? So have fun with the activities that you're doing today, and I will see you guys next class.